I'm driving through Montana on the way out west for my bicycle ride, and I'm looking for a place to stay close to Lewistown. And I discover the Judith Mountain Lodge, and while I'm there, I'm having a discussion with the bartender and find out that she's the owner. Not only is she the owner, but we have a common connection through North Dakota. Her name's Nicole Wines. She moved out to Montana after college, and one of the things that she did is she was one of the first to begin cattle broking online during the late 90s. So she was bringing ranchers to the broad online marketplace and opening up not just regional markets, but national markets for their cattle. She's quite an entrepreneur, and it was just fantastic staying at her place and getting a chance to interview her. And you come across this lodge. So how did that happen? How did you find out about this lodge, and what possessed you to buy the lodge?
Well, I don't know if it's mainly the auction mentality, but what happened was I was in a place, and he said that there was a lodge for sale, and it was happening like in 10 minutes. So he wanted to go see how much this lodge was selling for. And it was on an auction, online auction. And I had never been here before, and that's how it was. I guess I don't like to lose.
So you won the auction, and so who owned that property before, and what were the circumstances, and what did the property look like when you first drove up and saw what you had astutely acquired?
When I signed the paperwork, the property actually was owned by 12 different investors. This elderly lady had owned the place. She had actually lived here, built it, and everything. And I think it was just way too much for her to keep up. And so it had been empty for a long time. All the plumbing needed to be redone. It was kind of falling apart. It was, not very pretty. Let's put it this way. There was not one person of my friends or family that came up and looked at it and said, "Wow, Nicole, you could really do something with this."
They thought,
what are you doing?
Yeah.
And so 4 years later, it is a great little steakhouse and a little getaway that the locals have. Full liquor bar and 10 bedrooms. Just added a cabin that you stayed at last night.
Yeah, beautiful log cabin.
Yeah.
One question I've asked people, did you ever receive good advice from somebody, but even though it was good advice, you ignored it for whatever reasons, and it was the right thing to do was to ignore it and rent it. So what was that advice, and why did you ignore it?
Okay, so maybe, probably the cattle brokering business is because, one, there's not very many women that do it, and two, the concept of selling cattle over the internet. So that would be like both, I guess, would be early on in the business.
Yeah. So what you're saying is, people would have said that'll never work because
Correct.
You're a woman and nobody knows anything about it. What's the internet? What is that? No one cares. No one has computers.
Exactly.
And you said, nah, that's
Right.
where everything's going.
And it made me drive, I guess, harder. Especially a long time ago when I first started. It was more of my competition. I know that there was like a rumor mill, well, she'll never last or something. And I guess hearing things like that just made me try harder. And
yeah, so Montana is not like, it's kind of got a Marlboro Man image, right? And so you've been able to navigate as a woman in a Marlboro land, cowboy land, and how have you been able to do that maybe better than others?
Maybe some of the wives felt comfortable with me on that side too. There's a lot of wives that run the show on the ranch.
Yeah.
And,
oh, sure.
That could be a good or a negative,
Yeah,
so we have a little bit of both.
You obviously didn't let that,
No.
bother you one bit.
Nope.
You were going to be Nicole and do what you wanted to do and follow that dream and let everyone else worry about that.
Yep. Same as the lodge. When I got the liquor license, they were like, "What are you doing getting a liquor license out there?" Like, well, now since I have a liquor license, I might as well make a steakhouse. well, no one's going to drive 6 miles on that gravel road to go out and have a steak. And to me, I think that's the destination.
Yeah, well, it was pretty full last night.
Yeah.
You know, and the hotel was full, and we certainly enjoyed our meal.
Yep.
And we drove a lot more than 6
Yes,
miles.
you did.
I bicycled, I don't know, 900 miles.
Yep. Yep.
So you've had this career of learning and taking advantage of opportunities and insight into seeing where maybe you could do things a little differently and a little bit better. Tell me, in your history of these kinds of things, what advice did someone give you that you felt was really valuable?
What advice? Well,
Husband or friend or even a competitor?
Maybe I guess a good advice would be is follow your dream instead of listening to other people that pretty much, you know, a lot of things I do, everybody looks at me and shakes their head and says that will never work. But if you have the heart and the you can do anything.
Yeah, that's great advice.